making things simple for people. I think the industry has almost like cornered itself or pigeonholed itself to be overcomplicated for the general public, when in reality we should, as fitness professionals, try and make things as simple as possible. Like, people are coming to us for a simple solution on how to get healthy, fit, lose body fat, whatever, get their body weight goals.
Yeah.
And it's not our job to complicate it for them. They're already in a complicated position. They already know fuck all. So it's not our job to make it more complicated. It's our job to go, right, let's make this super fucking simple. A bit of feedback from a client today, and it was kind of like, you know, he had only started his fitness journey with me a couple of weeks back, and we're 2 weeks in now, and he's lost a little bit of weight, and he's feeling better, and he's feeling healthier, and blah, blah, blah. And I was chatting to him, you know, about the process so far, and I was asking for a bit of feedback and saying, like, you know, how are you enjoying things so far? And, you know, is there any changes, or is there any feedback that you can give me?
Yeah.
And he was just saying, he was like, I genuinely was resigning myself to the fact that I was going to have 12 weeks of like misery, of like, you know, and you know, that's people's perception of what starting a fitness program is at the moment.
So it's podcast time. What happens is my guest Aaron Smyth is gonna request to join, and me and him are gonna have a conversation, and it's gonna be amazing. So far, Aaron is also Irish, so I'm not purposely just talking to Irish people. There will be other people. Got lots of people lined up. Americans, English people, Mexican people. That's a good few different types of people from different kind of cultures coming on over the next few weeks. So, exciting stuff. Right, I see Aaron in the house, so he'll request to join, and we'll crack on.
Yo,
what's the crack?
What's the story?
How's it going?
All's good. I'm trying to I tried to get myself into like a part of the house where the dogs aren't snoring and the bleeding dryer isn't going ballistic. So I'm like in between two hella noisy
with
spots.
that. I've got chickens pecking and a jacuzzi overflowing.
There you go.
I get it.
Not a bad complaint. Not a bad complaint of the jacuzzi overflowing, eh?
All right.
That LA life, what?
I know, yeah. I didn't think I'm chicken sitting this weekend, so yeah.
How'd you manage that?
It's an LA thing, you know. It's funny though, because I have a friend who's plant sitting, so it's like you're either kid sitting or dog sitting. Nah, not anymore. Chicken sitting or watching someone's plants. So
man,
that's LA for you.
I'm telling you, man, that's a different lifestyle over there, bro.
Bit mad. But anyway, I'll stop talking about the chickens and all that. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, all's good, yeah. Yeah, it's been roasting over here the last week. And do you know what? It's crazy. Being in LA and stuff like that, you guys are, well, having been to LA before, you guys are so much more, like, equipped for this type of weather. Whereas here, we're all just dying and fans are sold out everywhere. And it's just like... I'm like, we're only about...
It's funny though, because you flip that, if it rains here, it's like...
What do we do?
Everyone stops and kind of freezes, like what do we do? Like
yeah, literally, what do we do? Yeah, but here it's just like we're only one step short of sticking our head in the bleeding freezer.
Yeah.
It's bad news over here. No aircon, no aircon at all anywhere pretty much, and it's just like, yeah, we're not built for it. Not built for it at all.
Fans and bundies are out of stock everywhere.
It's literally we're not like Harvey Norman. It's like, don't even bother going in for a sign. There's a sign outside just saying, don't even come in and ask.
Yeah, no pools left, no fans left.
That's pretty much it.
Usually you see people get creative in that sense of like, I don't know, they buy the most random things and then all of a sudden someone sees that and then everyone jumps on it. So like, you'll be sold out of like the weirdest thing that you wouldn't correlate with summer, but someone's decided it's the perfect way to put loads of ice in it. And you have a swimming pool all of a sudden. And then all the dogs go out of stock.
I'm telling you, man. They bought a blower boat and now it's a swimming pool.
That's it. Camping stores are now just like overrun. Right, I'll stop rambling. So, obviously I know a little bit about your story and I follow you and I see it all the time. But to anyone that doesn't know you, do you want to give yourself a little bit of an intro, who you are, and then kind of like the story we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, well, look. I think these questions are a bit of I find them quite hard. Tell me a bit about yourself. But look, long and short of it is, I've been a personal trainer for the last 11 years. I've been in the industry for 11 years. started off in commercial gyms, worked my way up the chain there, started doing a lot of classes like Les Mills style classes, like those sort of scripted and structured classes, along with doing a lot of personal training and sort of mixing the two of them. Sort of got to a place in my sort of career in commercial gyms where I wasn't going to go any higher, and had to sort of make a move, had to pull the trigger and go out on my own. So ended up going out on my own, doing my own thing. And from there, I was in a little bit of a bad rut in terms of, I was in a bad relationship at the time. I was obviously plugging a lot of money into my business at the very start, like, you know, business mentors, and you were, you know, putting loads of money into website and branding and all this sort of faff that you think you need at the very outset. And I obviously wasn't seeing a lot of return because I'd only started my business. Yeah. And then getting into, like, you know, you were into a bad rut because you were sinking a load of money into your business, you were in a bad relationship, and you're just, your head gets at you. And yeah, I just got into a really, really bad place in terms of, you know, my eating patterns, and ended up with bad eating disorders. I would have been what you would sort of diagnose as what's called a non-purging bulimic. So as bulimia goes, most people sort of envision getting sick in the toilet, whereas I would say for instance, just to give you an example, and I've given this example a million times to people who've asked me about it, is, let's say, for instance, if I binged or overate on a Friday, I would try to get to Monday or Tuesday. I'd try to get as far as I could without pretty much eating, or without as eating as little as possible, and then over exercising. So I'd go to the gym 3-4 times a day. I'd be doing endless amounts of cardio. I'd be doing, you know, 2-3 hours of cardio. I'd be doing multiple gym sessions a day, like crazy stuff. And at the time, like, it was, you know, easy to get away with it because you were looking at one end of the spectrum when you were like sort of low weight, you were looking lean, but you were starving yourself. But then on the far end of the spectrum, you know, you were, I think I got up to, I was over 135 kilos at my heaviest. So, you know, I went from one end of the spectrum being extremely sort of small for what my natural build would be, to being a lot bigger than what's deemed as healthy. So both ends of the spectrum didn't make me happy, but so that's sort of where it was. And then I sort of started to work on myself, started doing a lot of deep work, and started doing a lot of self-development, started reading a lot of books, getting into mindset, motivation, all that kind of crack, and then got my sort of self back on track. And then at the time, my auntie is actually, she's a doctor in psychology. She's a PhD in psychology, but she specializes in behavioral therapy. And she was sort of, I was asking her questions at the time, and I said this a couple of times before, I was asking her questions at the time, and I was talking about, say for instance, I was saying, if a client was doing this, and you know, what advice would you give to them? So I was talking about myself, but I wasn't letting
my friend situation.
Yeah. So I was asking her a load of questions, and she was sort of giving me a little bit of feedback, and from that she was sort of helping me get through it, like, you know, without well, I'm not sure if she knows if it was me sort of talking at the time about myself, but I'm sure she did. I'm sure she copped it. She's not silly, but that's what I was sort of doing. I was asking her at the time, you know, if a client did this, what would you do? Or if, you know, if you had somebody who was doing this type of behavior, how would you go about getting them out of it and stuff like that? So it was that kind of way. And then started to work myself out of it and got myself into a better place. Business started doing very, very well. Started online coaching. I think I was one of the first coaches in Ireland to start online coaching. Yeah. And things just sort of kicked off from there. So yeah, it's sort of got me to where I am now.
Wow. Yeah. That's it. So straight away hearing that, it's like, I resonate with quite a bit of that. I think anyone that's competed in physique, you're so lean to the point that, like, if you have to eat 12 grams of almonds, like you weigh those out, and like you think that extra almonds is gonna knock you out, like, and then you get to the point where you've ballooned up and you just cannot control shit anymore. And I think you have to figure out, like, you are super, super lean, like way overweight for your frame. Talking about myself here as well, and it's like, you then have to, you just have to learn how to come back to the middle, and I think it's almost like what everyone goes through with physique, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like the industry is getting there, but I think that there's very much so still this element of things are very black and white in the industry. It's either this way or it's this way, and you can't sit in the middle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I think people sort of get lost. They just go very headfirst into one dogmatic train of thought, and that's the only thing that they can do. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, when I speak to people in America, when I go over to the States and stuff like that, it's very like, well, I'm doing this specific diet, and I'm like, well, you know, what? It's the newest thing, and I guarantee you see it. You know,
it's like it's the same day. Like if you were to pull that person out and be like, look down at all these fads you've done. What's the main thing that's recurring here? Short term, like I always revert to the Snickers diet. You can have 4 Snickers a day and lose weight because you're only eating really 1,000 calories. Of course you'll lose weight. You'll look like shit, feel like shit, like not like, but you'll lose weight. Is that sustainable? No. Like, is it like
it's not
like, like there's so many fad diets, but look at what they actually are. Probably a drop in calories.
Absolutely.
Just wrapped in a shiny bow with a short-term shelf life that is not sustainable. So.
Yeah, but I do think the industry is getting away from that, like more so because you've got some great educators out there now.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've got Leigh Norton, you've got Holly Baxter, you've got Brad Schoenfeld, you know, Eric Helms, you've got a guy called Bill Campbell, you've got the ISSN, which is the International Sports Nutrition Institute, I think. I can't remember, but I can't remember what the acronym is, but it's, you know, you've got all, I think the science in the last, let's say, 2 to 4 years maybe has completely blown up in terms of all of these theories being put to the test, like ketogenic diet, you know, all of these types of different dieting methodologies are being put to the test now by scientists, by, you know, these incredibly, you know, top end nutritional scientists. And, you know, all of these things are now being sort of like busted, which is fantastic. And I think there's a lot to be learned from it, you know, with, I suppose, simplifying, making things simple for people. I think the industry has almost like cornered itself or pigeonholed itself to be overcomplicated for the general public, when in reality we should, as fitness professionals, try and make things as simple as possible. Like, people are coming to us for a simple solution on how to get healthy, fit, lose body fat, whatever, get their body weight goals.
Yeah.
And it's not our job to complicate it for them. They're already in a complicated position. They already know fuck all. So it's not our job to make it more complicated. It's our job to go, right, let's make this super fucking simple. And
you know what? Yeah, it's very true. It's like, if I was just a regular person that is not in fitness and is like, right, I want to get healthy, and I Google how to train or how to eat, it's like you said, it's like there's so much complicating stuff, like do this amount of reps, or like this workout is the best, this will torch 1 million calories, this diet, this that, this is the bad food, this is a healthy food.
For sure.
Like, so you're dead right. It's like there's no, but it's very hard because people will come to you wanting that quick fix, and it's like, nah, this is, you got to educate yourself. I will guide you with along the way, but like, you got to learn how to eat and how to train. It's a lifelong thing, and yeah, like you said, if you can simplify that, like that's how it needs to be, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Like, and I only had a sort of a bit of feedback from a client today, and it was kind of like, you know, he had only started his fitness journey with me a couple of weeks back, and we're 2 weeks in now, and he's lost a little bit of weight, and he's feeling better, and he's feeling healthier, and blah blah blah. And I was chatting to him, you know, about the process so far, and I was asking for a bit of feedback and saying, like, you know, how are you enjoying things so far, and, you know, is there any changes, or is there any feedback that you can give me? And he was just saying, he was like, I genuinely was resigning myself to the fact that I was going to have 12 weeks of like misery. Of like, you know, that's people's perception of what starting a fitness program is at the moment. Do you know, because they may have tried a load of things in the past. They may have been on a quick fix plan. You know, they may have been on a 6-week shred program, and they've been eating nothing but chicken and broccoli for weeks on end. You know, and people always resign themselves to the fact that this is probably the only way that I will ever get in shape. When in reality, you know, there's a million ways to skin a cat, but we can, as coaches, we can try and simplify that and make that as easy and as pain-free and as normal to that person as possible, is probably the best way I could put it.
Definitely. Like you said, like, there's got to be a lifelong sustainable, this is your life now. This is how you eat. You might take a week off here and there because, I don't know, you're just
you're away on a holiday, or you're away with your family, or there's obviously tips and troughs in it, you know.
Yeah, it's just got to be most of the time you live by these rules, and then
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's the main thing that I try and do is like, rather than it being like the first week for a client for me is always, let's just do what you're currently doing till I see how you're currently living.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what I want to do is I want to see what foods they're eating, how their lifestyle is, if they eat more on a Friday, if they eat more, if they get stressed midweek and all of a sudden their diet goes out the window, or, they had they're one of these people that might, diet the arse off themselves from Monday to Friday, a weekend comes and they just go balls to the wall. So you
Yeah.
can look at those habits, or you can look at that first week and go, okay, right, we can make these small tweaks here, but I'm not saying week one, here's a list of this, and this, and now you got to do all this and eat this food. And I think the closer you can keep people to their own reality and what their own sort of like normality is, I think the more sustainable the plan will be. If you take them too far away from what they're used to,
Yeah.
that those sort of habits and those eating patterns, those sort of little small things that you've set up for them are not going to be sustainable, because again, it's too far removed from their current reality. And someone coming to you might be 30, 40 years of age. So they're doing whatever they're doing for the last 20, 30, 40 years. So
Yeah.
it's old dog, new tricks. It's like, right, well, rather than, turning their life on its head, can we just adjust or tweak slightly what you're doing right now, or what's, I suppose, tweak the sort of small things where they can make a slightly bigger difference. Do you know that kind of thing? Like maybe increase the protein, just keeping an eye on calorie intake, stuff like that.
And I think then once people are like, right, so let's say I've started this diet and it's nothing drastic, so it's not like that, like, 2 days in and then I fail. This works and I feel good. Let me try a little bit more. Let me go a little bit deeper. Oh, this is working. This feels good. Let me try again a little bit deeper. Yeah.
And I always find, say for instance, like if somebody knows they're going to diet, or say for instance, like if a client knows they're going to start the diet on a Monday, that weekend before that Monday kicks off is literally going to be fucking
party.
From the moment they get up in the morning till the time they go to bed. It's just going to be, I'm going to eat anything that's not nailed to the floor because I know I'm not going to have it on Monday. So that's what I want to break. I want to try and break that all or nothing, or that feast or famine mentality where people are kind of going, right, well, this is, I'm not having these foods come Monday, when in reality, like you can have anything, you just can't have everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely a cycle that's or some people be like, it's Thursday, they've eaten bad, they're like, well, I'll just continue till Monday. It's like no, pull yourself out of your body and just look, it doesn't have to be that way. Like
absolutely. And I suppose it's something I kind of say to my clients, you're only one choice away from being back on track. So like if you make balls of your breakfast, don't just write the day off, just go, right, okay, next choice is good. Do you know, like if you go out and you like bust a stack of pancakes or something like that, and you might not be, I suppose, set up ideally for the day, fuck it, just like go, right, chalk that one down to experience, let's just move on to the next meal, make the next meal a better choice, make the next meal a choice that you would, be happy to jump into, so I think it's trying to move away from that feast or famine, all or nothing mentality, and try and live in that sort of gray area where it's like, nothing's off limits. Do you know that kind of way?
Yeah. Because as soon as it's not off limits, you're like, well, I actually don't want it, but it's nice. I'm allowed it. I actually know I'm good. I'm good. I'll see if I want some.
Yeah, giving people the power of choice, I think, is fantastic. Whereas if you take that away from them, it's just red button syndrome. Like, if you say to somebody, like, you can't have hamburgers, even though they might not have thought of a hamburger in the last 6 weeks. It's like, oh my God, I'm dying for a hamburger now, man. Oh my God. It's people's mentalities, people's psychology, and it's trying to navigate and mitigate that as best you can, and trying to guide people in the right direction. And like I said, it's about giving people that power of choice. It's about giving people that power back, where I think a lot of times trainers, and I actually put up a post about this today, I think trainers sort of try and hold on to the keys of the process, let's say. And like withhold information, withhold the knowledge that they have to impart to their clients, so that they'll keep that client long term on the pay books. Because
Yeah.
Like obviously as a personal trainer, as being self-employed, obviously you got to keep your money, right? But I think I'd rather have a client work with me for 12 weeks, 24 weeks, teach them everything I know, and then they'll be able to sustain that for years to come. But they're going around telling every single one of their mates that was the best investment they've ever made.
I think, you know what, that I was about to say that's the big difference. It's like, number one, I know me and you are on the same page with this, is like, I'm passionate about helping people and I'd like to help them through fitness. Yeah, now I have a lifestyle I want to sustain, which is, like costing money, so I need to bring in money. But it's like, yeah, if you withhold that and like make your client feel like they need you, you're just shooting yourself in the foot long term. You're not helping anyone. Whereas, like you said, if you empower them with information, like they can go live a life and not be like so up and down, black and white with their lifestyle choices. That is worth way more. And then you said, like, they're going to tell everyone, and just because they've learned a ton from you and can stand on their own 2 feet, they're still going to track you for now and again for something, you know what I mean? Or if not that, if an opportunity comes their way and they're like, man, Aaron needs this opportunity, I'm going to shout his name out, like, and you don't do it for that, but it comes back to you that way, 100%.
It is mad. Like, I've clients now where, they're telling me that people are coming up in the gym asking them for advice. And like, and to me, that's incredible, because I'm like, I taught that person enough that they look like the people that normal average Joe Soap should be going to for advice. Do you know what I mean? It's really great. Like, one of my clients is a mother too, and she's an accountant. She was telling me during the week that there's people coming up to her in the gym saying, like, what's the best exercise for hamstrings? You look like you know what you're doing, and it's to me that's incredible. The fact that she's confident in the gym, she's strong looking, she's fit, she's healthy, and all she's done was follow a plan. All she did was like surrender to the plan, follow it to a T, and and she's in the best shape of her life. She's in incredible shape, and the fact that people are coming up to her asking for advice is, it's how hard she's worked.
That's the feeling. Like, I think we both agree, we wish we could give everyone. Is like you said it there, strong, powerful, and confident.
Yeah.
That there, that's cool. Good for you, man. That's really cool.
Happy out.
So, I'm gonna dive back a little bit when you were talking about, you kind of hit the ceiling in the gym and you went on to do your own thing. So during that little time period, right? What was the hardest experience you met within that, leaving one gym, starting your new business? What was the hardest experience you had? And looking back, if you could erase it and skip it, would you, or would you have still lived it out?
If I could erase anything, it was probably my attitude coming towards the end of working in a gym, a commercial gym. Because at the end, like, I was inexperienced, I was cocky at the time, borderline arrogant, and it was more so my bad attitude that I wish I could go back and go, right, do you know what? I could go about this in a better way. I felt the gym at the time wasn't paying me what I was worth, and they were taking massive amounts of my personal training money or commission or whatever you think. Like, I think I was getting, for every 60 quid for every 60 quid that was taken in, I think I was getting 19.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So that's fair. Yeah, it was about €19, and that was if you did it like whilst you were on shift. If you come in and did it on your own time, I think you got a little bit more. I think it was maybe 25, 26 euro, if I can remember correctly.
Still, that's way more than like 60%.
Yeah, it was a massive chunk. And then commission, and then that was the sort of commission end of the PT thing. And then I was just getting run into the ground with a load of classes. And because not to toot my own horn, I feel I was very good at teaching classes. I had massive numbers in my classes. The studios that were in that gym could hold 100 people, and my classes were fairly maxed out all the time.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was doing fairly well. I felt like I was doing very well in terms of keeping my class numbers extremely high, holding the high standard of training and coaching. I was constantly upskilling. and I just didn't feel I was getting what I was worth. And I also felt I didn't feel I was listened to, for any changes that wanted to be made, or for any certain, for things that needed to be sort of maybe improved upon in the gym. I just wasn't listened to. And then even for things like, I know it's sort of petty things like, I never got a Sunday off because I could teach 4 classes back to back because I was qualified in all of those 4 classes, whereas it would take 2 other people. So it would have took 2 people to come in and cover my Sunday. So they didn't want to give me a Sunday off to take in 2 people to cover the shift. So it was always Sundays. So it was like things like that was bugging me, and it was just little things. And look, to be fair, if I look back on it, that would probably be the thing that I would change. If I could erase it and start again, I probably would have liked to finish on a better note with that gym. I think both of us had we left with a bit of a sour taste in our mouth. It was just kind of like well, fuck you, we're not renewing your contract. And I was like, right, fuck you too, I'm out of here then, sort of thing. And it was that type of way. Whereas I wish, when I look back, and to be honest, I still fucking love that gym to this day. Do you know what I mean? I really, really do. And it's almost like your first love, because it's kind of like that. It was my first job. It was my first real job in the industry, and the members there, oh my God, like they were just incredible people. You met, people from bin men to, people who worked in the United Nations. Do you know what I mean? Like one of my clients who I ended up working with was working for the United Nations, and you were meeting incredible people from all walks of life, and that was one thing that I loved about that gym. You just got to meet so many people, make so many great connections. So yeah, I definitely think I'd love to go back and change that and sort of alter my attitude towards the end, because we could have both sort of handled that situation a lot better, the gym and myself. We could have both sort of walked away from it, just shook hands and said, right, look, it's time to walk away from this. I was ready to go. I think I was sort of him and Han about moving, and him and Han about going out on my own, and sort of going, will I do this and will I not, and will I do this? And it was in my head, because I was like, well, if I done this and I took this amount of personal training on, well, like I'd be earning 3 times what I'm making here in a week. So I was adding up all these numbers, and I was saying this to the managers, well, I could be earning this, and they were like, well, why don't you? And I'm like, it's that kind of way. So yeah, I definitely think I could have, if I could go back and change things, that's probably one thing I would do.
That's hard. It's kind of like, well, because I wasn't there. I didn't see how they were talking and treating you. But it's kind of like, if you have a top guy, if you can make him happy, and that's giving him a Sunday off or paying him a higher percentage, if he's put in the work and it's proved in the numbers, like if he's not asking for outrageous things.
Well, listen, like I said, I think that gym has created some of the best coaches in the country. Like one of the coaches from the ISI, a guy called Owen Lacey, he started there. There's a gym in Clontarf called The Edge, and some of the trainers that work there are some of the best in the country. And again, they all started in this particular gym. And if when I look back on it, and I'm going like, if that gym just had kept the people who were like incredible educators, people who were like determined to go all out on classes, determined to go all out on PT, if they had just kept them, it would have it still is an incredible facility. It's genuinely probably one of the best equipped facilities in the country still. But if you look at it from a staffing perspective in terms of quality of personal trainers, like it would have had the best standard of personal trainers hands down in the country, if they just had opened their eyes a little bit to the people who are in front of them, and maybe had somebody who was more of a talent scout, or do you know, that kind of thing, or somebody who was more about who could see 5 years ahead, who could see 10 years ahead, rather than saying, okay, well, everybody's replaceable. Do you know that kind of thing? I always felt like, there was people who I thought were never going to leave that gym, and they came in one day and they were like, it's like, oh, I got sacked. I'm just after getting, my notice, and I'm supposed to leave now. And it's things like that where, like, I watched one of the girls, come in for a shift on a Monday, and she was just handing her notices. Like, right, she was like, I'm just after getting sacked, and I'm like sitting there going, for what? You know, she was an incredible trainer. She's now a mother of two, I think maybe 2 or 3, and an incredible trainer, super strong, super fit. And I think the biggest issue that they had with her was that she wasn't as flexible as they would have liked her to be. You know, she couldn't, you know, do shifts or couldn't, you know, chop and change things because she obviously had kids and she had other commitments. So it was a very, very cutthroat gym. It was like, if you don't sort of conform to what we need you to be and what we need you to do, we'll find somebody else that will.
Wow, that sounds insane.
Yeah, it was pretty harsh. But look, again, it probably, like, the area manager of that gym gave me one of my first ever self-help books, or sort of motivational self-help books. It's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. He's a guy called Alan. But yeah, he was huge into motivation, incredible salesman, just an insane businessman. But yeah, he was the one who sort of kick-started my sort of love for self-help, self-development, all that kind of crack.
That's cool, and because that's kind of where the next questions go is so when you had walked away from that gym and started doing your own thing, you were kind of in that little bit of a rut you were talking about, like, yeah. So how did you get out of it? Like what were your steps? I know you said like you had your do you know what? Genuinely, I know this sounds really, really kooky, but like I started listening to, do you know Les Brown? No.
He's an American guy. He's a black American guy, and he's a motivational speaker. And I started listening to so much of his stuff. I mean, like, hours and hours of his content every day.
Yeah.
And his stuff was very, very sort of like, as stupid as it sounds and as sort of cliche as it sounds, it sort of touched our soul. It was like very sort of like hit you in the chest when he was speaking, and it was kind of, it was very soulful, almost like a preacher, almost like a priest, like a sort of an American style preacher, you know, voice. And it was very, you know, it's very sort of, he was borderline sort of spiritual, but also very sort of aware of, you know, that you can't just, you know, like The Secret, you can't just, you know, visualize it and it'll come through the door. Like, you know, you got to go and work for it, you know. So that's what sort of got me out of it. A lot of things like that. And then family, like, you know, my family were incredible, like always there for me going through hard times. And, you know, like, yeah, I think a lot of people, I was only saying to Viv recently, I was like, I think people don't realize how grateful they are to have some of their family members in their lives. Like, you know, like I wish my grandparents were still alive. Like I said it to Viv recently there, like that. I was like, I don't think you realize how lucky you are to have both your grandparents still alive, and you know that you can just call into them anytime and that type of stuff. Like I was so close to my grandparents, and yeah, I wish I had them still, you know. And that for me, family is a huge thing.
Yeah, nice. So kind of leaning on those people. It's Absolutely. Great that they were there as well, like, because some families, especially Irish ones, like the mentality is like, well, number one, if it's awkward and feelings and you're down, it's like, you'll be grand. So you don't really have that space to to like, you know, like I'm really stuck here.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they also, I'm very lucky with my family as well, but like I've seen some families and it's like you want to be a what? You want to be a PT? Nah, get a real job. And they're like, you know, send you to an office for a 9 to 5 safe, secure job. And it's like to have family that, number one, will give you that space to be a little bit bummed out, and then number two, be like, no, follow your dreams, like, you know, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think as well, like one of my best mates, Andres, he was super for me at the time as well. Like, you know, he also kept me very accountable. At the time, obviously, I was living in Dublin. I'm back living in Blackrock, where I'm originally from. But I was living, that's Blackrock Louth, not Blackrock Dublin. So I moved from Dublin back to Louth. And yeah. So moved from Swords back to Blackrock. But when I was in Swords and I was living in Swords and I was going through this hard time, Andres was going to the gym with me every single day at 6 a.m. Like I used to go to the gym now when I was trying to get myself back into, the swing of things with health and fitness and trying to keep myself right and stuff like that. He would meet me every single day at 6 a.m. without, he'd be always there. He'd pick me up some of the days. And, days where I wasn't feeling 100% or I wasn't up for it, he'd be like, come on, let's go. And he'd just bang on a load of Kanye on blast in the car on the way to the gym, and we'd just be ready to rock. So, like, he has a lot to do with it as well in terms of getting me back on track.
Yeah. That's huge, yeah. So, like, because you're trying to show up for yourself, and you know that once you gain momentum, you'll be good.
Absolutely.
At the same time, like, we do this for other people. Sometimes it's like, and it's a bit of shame in saying, like, oh, I'm the trainer that's unmotivated to train myself right now.
Listen, we're human. Do you know what I mean? Like, not just sitting here like bulletproof. I would say, I fucking love the gym. I love training. It's my thing. And but I also do know what it's like to be like, fuck this, man. I'm not going. So it's and when you're in that sort of rut, it's like anyone. You're only human. It's so hard to get yourself out of it. It's so tough to get yourself out. And then obviously having that buddy there that, be like, here, listen, come on, let's hit the gym, or let's do this, or let's even go out for a walk. Like, it doesn't have to be the gym. It can be just, listen, let's go for a walk this evening, or let's just, catch up and go for a coffee, like just to get you out, even just get you moving, I think is a big thing.
Your body and socialize 2 hours are the best medicines, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then what kind of motivates and drives you? Obviously in this field, we're very self-motivated, self-driven, because we're trying to do that for others. What's your go-to for motivation and self-drive like these days?
Again, I know it sort of comes back to family, because I think the more successful I become, I suppose it sort of sounds a bit weird, like the better my business gets, the more time I'm able to spend with family, and that's what I enjoy. Like me and my family went for a 2-week holiday to Florida around September 2019, and it is by far the best thing we have ever done. Like, it's so cool. Like, obviously going to Orlando is one of my favorite places. Like, Universal Studios and stuff like that is genuinely one of my favorite places to go. So not only, now it was obviously a big expense and all that kind of crack, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, because anytime we meet up, we're talking about it. And now we're actually planning, my uncle's 50th is New Year's Eve this year, but we're planning to go back next year for his birthday. So we're already planning, and like we're constantly texting in the group, like in our family chat, like we're looking to book for like next August, September time. And we're already hyped about it, like, because it not only it gives you the sort of excitement leading up to it, it gives you the trip, and then you got all the sort of like memories and photos and crack. Oh my God, man, like there was so much shit that happened like within the first like 48 hours of us landing. Like my auntie in the airport, like 5 a.m, thought she lost her bank card. Then when we got there, my uncle left his wallet and his phone in one of the drawers at one of the rides, like in the lockers. And we just pissed off towards some end of the park, and we had to go, fuck, we've no wallet and shit. And then my other auntie thought she lost her fucking whole handbag the second day. And I'm like, everything that could have went wrong within like 48 hours. But like, thank God we found it all. Like, but we have just so many fun fucking memories from it. Like, and that for me is a huge motivator. Like, because like I drive a shitty 04 Golf. But that doesn't bother me. If I could go away on 4 family holidays a year, or if I could go on 5 trips every year and make incredible memories, to me, that's a huge motivator. Huge motivator. Like, not a big fancy car that takes me from A to B, because that car does the same job. Whereas, I'd rather just go away on holidays. I'd rather go away for trips. I'd rather spend time with family. Like, that's my biggest motivation.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I get that. That's a good one as well. Seeing like other people around you happy, and not in a flash your cash way, but in a work hard to put myself in this situation where we can pause, take time, like spend the money it takes to enjoy time with each other, and not spend that money or time right like that,
Honest to God, and this sounds so fucking soppy, like one of the best videos I have is my mum like running around Universal Studios in a poncho, like, and it's pissing rain, and it nearly brings a tear to my eye watching it, because I'm like, I just remember that day so fucking well. And I think so many, like, if you had said what motivates me when I was back working in commercial gyms and shit like that, I would have been like, oh, I want to get like runners, and I want to get this, and I want to get loads of material shit. Like, when I look back then, I was like, I was driven by having a different pair of runners for every class that I taught. I swear to fuck, you think I'm joking? I had a red pair of runners that go with Body Pump because Body Pump's colours were red. I had a blue pair of runners because they went with Body Attack. I had a black and grey pair because they went with CX Works. I mean, it was all of this type of shit, like materialistic shite. When I look back, I'm going like, fuck me, man, that was such a waste of fucking money. And it could have been so well or so better spent, if that makes any sense. Like, you could have just spent it on going away with your family, but again, look, you learn these lessons as you get older. Like, the materialism of it all sort of like drops away, and you sort of realize what's truly important,
Yeah. I think that just comes with age. Like you can never be old and wise if you've never been young and foolish,
Absolutely.
So, all right, so I know you a little bit deeper than probably people that are listening to this that have never met you. How do you self-educate? I know like how you have in the past, but like, how do you self-educate, or what's your kind of tip for self-education to people that are like, they want to do better, but they actually just have no clue, like, what avenues to look down, what books, what podcasts?
Is this for clients or for PTs?
I would say for either. Anyone that is stuck in a little bit of a rut and trying to do something, wants to do something, but just doesn't actually know whether it get out of a business or get out of a rut with being on the same diet and not being happy with their body.
Yeah, well, look, for PTs, I think what I see a lot here is PTs being influenced by other PTs, whereas they're not looking at what's actually relevant to their niche or relevant to the client base. So for me, I'm looking at my client base, I'm looking at who my clients are, I'm looking at their lifestyles, I'm looking at their habits, I'm looking at everything involved with my particular style of client. And I'm searching for courses that are going to go with that. Like, I was looking at a course recently, I can't remember his second name, Jordan something or other. He has this course called Prescript. I can't think of a second name for the life of me. But everybody's talking about him at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking like it's all about like, biomechanics and movement and all of this type of shit. And I'm going like, none of my fucking clients would, if I talk to my clients about scapular attraction and, all of this, gone.
Yeah.
Like, not that they're like daft people. They're like, some of my clients are incredibly intelligent, but they're not there to get a fucking biomechanics lesson. They're there to get.
And they're probably not athletes that need to know, like, all right, when I'm in my sports, they really need to pinpoint on this joint. If they're a baseball player or basketball player, like,
if you're on the higher level of coaching athletes, performance-based coaching, absolutely, 100% down that road, because that's what you need, that's what's required. But for the general Joe public, for the general Joe Schmo walking down the road, looking at sports, maybe not sports psychology, but like, lifestyle psychology, lifestyle habit courses, like looking at coaches like, like I said, there's a guy called Bill Campbell. He does a lot of nutritional research. Brad Schoenfeld, again, one of the leading muscle hypertrophy researchers in the world. Alan Aragon, again, nutritional researcher. And then a couple of guys from home, like, obviously you've got your own Lacey, who's one of the most well-known educators in Ireland at the moment, working for the ISI, the Irish Strength Institute. And again, I just jumped onto his course. It's a high-intensity interval training course. And, though I know about high-intensity training and I know how to apply it to clients, it's always good to jump on and see it from somebody else's perspective, to learn, to, you could pick up a few bits and pieces that you might not have known. But that's one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of Irish coaches doing, is doing courses because they see other coaches doing them, rather than going, well, who's my actual client base and do I need that? Or what they'll do is they'll go completely down the rabbit hole of that one particular dogmatic idea. They'll just pick one thing and be like, this is what I'm doing with my clients and everybody's getting it. Or they'll be getting coached by somebody and then they'll literally just use what they're doing with their coach on their clients. And I'm like, well, that doesn't apply to your clients. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. You went to this other coach for a specific reason, and your clients are coming to you for a different reason, but yet you're applying this shit that your coach has given you to this person who has come to you for a completely different reason. But from the average Joe Soap perspective, to start educating yourself again, look at what you want to do and look at the big idea, and I suppose break it down, on a day-to-day basis. Like, if you want to learn about counting calories, there's endless amounts of YouTube video. But I genuinely think everybody would benefit from hiring a coach, because listen, look, nobody heeds free advice. If people listen to free advice, there's endless amounts out there on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, all of those apps. Everybody would be walking around shredded. But I think if people listen to free advice, because there's tons of it out there, people don't need it. If people could apply the free information that's out there, you'd never need a coach. You'd never need a trainer.
I think that's because once you pay for it, you're like, oh shit, I'm paying for this shit.
Yeah, there's more skin in the game.
That money keeps you accountable a little bit. Yeah, definitely. That's a good point, actually. Everyone will be walking around shredded up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, again, look, I think people need to realize the benefit of a coach, not just from a learning, not from a sort of educational perspective, but from a skin in the game. There's something on the line here. Like, if I don't follow this through, I'm losing X amount of money. And I think when you pay for something, when there's value added to something, or there's value attributed to a specific process, well, then you're willing to sort of listen to it that little bit more. I've given free programs to family members, friends, in the past, and they never follow through. It's like, honest to God, they really don't. And I don't mean that as a
because the thing with most people, I think, is it's like it's not like to a degree, right? It's not that they don't know how to do stuff. They're just not motivated or disciplined enough for it. So it's like, it's not that you don't know how to eat. You're just not motivated or disciplined enough to how your diet right now is not getting you any closer. But
there's
you
no skin in
hand
the game.
a magic list isn't going to do it, and they're just not willing to not change their habits yet.
Completely.
All right, so here's a cool question for you. I like this question for some reason.
Go for it.
What is one lesson you wish you learned in school? Like, it can be a subject or a lesson. It can be mental, physical, mindset, anything at all. What do you wish, if you could rewrite a curriculum right now, what is one thing you would make sure everyone gets taught?
I was only saying this to a client of mine the other day, and he's an incredible businessman. No one, I took business as a subject in school, but nothing that I learned in business is applying to my business now. So if they had said, in fourth or fifth year, let's say maybe fourth year, right? Okay, you have to start your own business, and by sixth year, you have to make it profitable. Now, profitable by fucking €1, just make it fucking profitable. Make it balanced or make it profitable.
Yeah.
You would learn so much more from actually creating and doing a business, actually getting hands-on with a business, than learning from a curriculum-based business. You know what I mean? Because again,
the skin in the game again.
Yeah, it's absolutely. Yeah. I also think with the likes of, let's say marketing and social media now, you could take a marketing course in college now, but if you just got stuck into, the nuts and bolts of marketing and how to do things and the psychology, why people buy things, and, it's you would learn so much more by just getting stuck in, rather than if you think about a 4-year marketing course, look in the last 3-4 years, look how much Snapchat exploded and then died. Look at how Instagram exploded. Look at TikTok. No one ever would have predicted. TikTok used to be Musical.ly. I had music years ago, and it was shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now TikTok is essentially bleeding Musical.ly, and all of a sudden it's the biggest thing since sliced bread, and no one would have predicted that. But that's, if you had been stuck in a marketing course learning traditional marketing, the industry moves that fast outside of courses like that, it's not that it's not worth it. Obviously it's worth it, but applying or getting stuck into an actual role or job, or potentially trying to get stuck into something yourself, I think would give you far more actual real world experience.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. And even if, like, so let's say you were doing a business course, right? You
Yeah.
then have to set up a business, make it profitable by at least €1, right? So let's say I don't want to be an entrepreneur and I don't want to open my own business, but because like my final grade counts on this, I'm like, shit, like if I go and join a business and I'm in charge of, I don't know, the financial end of it, I know how important this is because I've been there and I failed at it. Rather than thinking, oh, I can make these huge mistakes because it's not my business. But like,
exactly, yeah.
yeah.
I genuinely think, honest to God, I only had this discussion the other day with a client of mine. It was just like, I genuinely wish they had said, listen, go and start a business. Go and try get a business off the ground, even if it's selling buns. Do you know what I mean? Like anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, just make something and make something profitable. Like, you know, like even like my little cousin now, they are actually doing it. They did it in fourth year, where they had to like start a business. Well, not like start a business, but they had to like sort of they had to like start a little sort of thing. And I think she started making like tote bags and stuff like that and selling tote bags. But it was like she was making like tote bags, I think, out of like old clothes and stuff, like recycled clothes and, you know, shit like that. But which is quite cool.
Yeah.
I think like when I look back to when I was in school, like, you know, I think 2007 is when I finished school, which makes me sound hella fucking old.
2005. I was like,
Bruh.
I'm 20 years out of school.
I know, yeah, Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like back then, you know, there was none of that shit. You know, like we didn't even have home economics. Not that I would have chosen it, but like we didn't even have home ec. We didn't have, you know, ag science. We didn't have, like, we had very basic subjects back in school. Whereas now you've so many different subjects that you can get stuck into. Like there's so much variety for kids now, in
That's
terms
great.
of what sort of lane ways they got to take in school. But anyway, yeah, I divulge, or I not I divulge. What's that word? Digress.
I like that. That's a good one though.
There you go.
Because I remember now when I was in school in that fourth year, it was only in fourth year, which to anyone that's not Irish is basically a weird gap year that you don't have to take. You can go from third year to fifth year. It's like,
Try to explain that to someone that's not Irish.
Yeah, proper Irish. Do this year if you want. If you do it, nothing that you do actually counts for anything. There's no curriculum for your final grade. Like, it's stupid.
This year will count for
there was
nothing. Take it if you want.
If you want to waste a year of your time. There was a thing though called Young Entrepreneurs, and it was like, I don't know, but again with that, it wasn't a year-long thing. I think it was a very it's like, oh, there's a competition this Saturday. Would you like to enter?
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? And then it was like, that was it.
Yeah, it was a one and done type thing.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you learn anything. I just think you get to invent something, and then like that tote bag's like, oh, like, yeah, that's cool. We'll buy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And some company robs your idea because often makes millions. It's like
we're like a modern day sweatshop. Exactly what it is.
Like, we're gonna go to these kids, rob their ideas, and then make millions.
Yeah. And then I think even like the way, and this is gonna sound terrible, but the way the school marketed it, it was almost like, I'm not saying this, but they made it a very nerdy thing. Like, no one wanted to do it. You'd be like, how embarrassing! Like,
yeah. I hear like people genuinely when I look back on people who did fourth year. To be fair, if I look back on my school years, I probably should have done it, because when I was doing my leaving cert, I don't know what's the equivalent to a leaving cert over there.
SATs.
Right. Okay.
No, wait. I think that's like an IQ thing. I think it's your final.
Maybe final.
Your finals. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's say, for instance, so when I was doing my finals and when I was doing my leaving cert here, like I was 16, turning 17 that summer. So like I turned 17 in May, done my leaving cert in June. So I'm like, how the hell are you supposed to make decisions for your life when you're 16/17? Do you know what I mean? Like you make decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life. Yeah. No, not a chance. So I didn't even know what I wanted for dinner there that day. Never mind fucking what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Yeah.
And I find like over here is very different, like, because you kind of, you're going to go to college, whether it be community or big college. And if you don't, you just kind of, you know what you want to do, sort of thing. But back home, it's like, when I finished school, I took a year off because I had no clue what I wanted to do. And then once you take that year off, you're not ever going to, like, it's a year off becomes a lifetime. Unless you get to the age where you're like, I think I was like 24, and I was like, shit, I actually really enjoyed this. Now I have to find a way to get to college. I'm too old to go to college. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're backtracking so much. It's just by the time you actually realize what you really want to do truly in life, I think the pathways to getting there are a lot harder.
Yeah, definitely. And you get more fearful because you've got a job that's bringing in money, and then all of a sudden you're about to go back to that kind of student life, you know.
Absolutely.
I have 2 more questions for you.
Right.
So, what was the best piece of advice you ever got?
The best piece of advice I ever got: do a good job. Jonathan Goodman, of course. So Jonathan Goodman is, I don't know if you know of him, but he runs and owns the Online Trainer Academy, and he also owns and runs the Personal Training Development Center. He's a Canadian guy, and he basically wrote the book on online training. And I done his course years ago when I first began online coaching, and one of the first things that is in his sort of manual or book was do a good job and make sure everybody knows about it.
Nice. Yeah.
So that sort of stuck with me for such a long time and still obviously sticks with me to this day. But you know, when I think of do a good job, to me, I always envision my mum walking into a gym, and my mum is a very sort of nervous person, and she wouldn't really know that much about the gym. And I always envision her walking in to a gym and how a trainer would treat her. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to treat my clients how I would want a trainer to treat my mum walking into a gym. So I try my best to support them. I try my best to give my utmost support to my clients. I try my best to, you know, give them as much encouragement as possible. Like, I think, do you know what's crazy? Telling a client that you're proud of them is probably one of the craziest things that you'll do for your client. Like, I've told so many of my clients how proud I am of them to have come so far, to have made such changes, to have do all of these things. And the message that I get back from telling them how proud I am of them is just insane. Like, can you remember the last time somebody said to you, I'm actually really proud of you?
Yeah. Like it doesn't happen often.
No.
And when it does, it hits.
It fucking hits you big time.
Yeah.
Saying that, I genuinely think doing a good job for people is paramount to this job.
Yeah. I like that. All right, then my last question, and then we can kind of go through any of the comments here that had any questions in it.
Okay.
Let's have 2 approaches to this, because we've got Aaron the been there, done that, and we've got Aaron the coach, right? So what are 3 non-negotiable habits for success? And then we'll have 3 non-negotiable habits for clients that are trying to really get control of fitness as their lifestyle.
3 non-negotiable habits for success.
Yeah.
I think perseverance.
Yeah.
I think people give up too easy. Do you know, the generation of, like, when I look back at my uncle's generation and my granddad's generation, like a generation of fucking grafters. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I think nowadays, you know, it's too easy to give up on something. You know, it's like, oh, fuck this, I'm not enjoying this. Or even if, not that you're not enjoying it, like, I think obviously there's other avenues. If you truly aren't enjoying something, pack it in, fair enough. But just because you're having a hard time with something, you know, don't give up on it because you're having a hard time with it. If you truly love a specific job, or if you love a specific occupation, and you're just going through a hard time, you know, don't give up on it. Like, I don't know how many times I've been broke and fucked in this job or in my career as a self-employed person. And I've never wanted to give up. you know, I've never wanted to like stop and go, oh fuck, maybe I should just get like a real job, like a 9 to 5 type job, or like not that type of job is bad, but get a real job, get an actual like secure paying monthly income job. Not once have I wanted to give up. So I think that's a big one in terms of, you know, my 3 lessons or my 3 things for success is perseverance. My second one would be probably again do a good job, you know. Non-negotiables is again just do a good job, do your best for the client, do your best for the person that's in front of you. And you know, my other one is don't be afraid to say you don't know. Like there's massive strength for a trainer in saying, do you know what, I actually don't know about that. You know, one of my long-term clients, Claire, she's finishing training with me now at the end of this month. And although I'm sad to see her stop training with me, she wants to train in a different style. She wants to get into powerlifting. And for me, I don't know about that. But I've spent the last week researching trainers for her. And I've spent the last week researching different, you know, courses that she could potentially do or seminars that she potentially can go to. And I've been sending them all to her on Instagram. And although, like I said, it's hard for me to say, right, okay, that client's leaving me because I love her. She's great. She's a fantastic client and she's very, very loyal. And what we've achieved since we've been working together is incredible. I just don't know enough about powerlifting to get her to where she wants to be. So that just has to be another coach.
Yeah. But that's so that's something I think is hugely important. Is like, I said this the other day. It's like, if you want to do something, you Google it. But it's like, you don't know. There's so much on Google. So if we're in some type of community, whereas like, let's say you follow me online, you come to my gym, like, so you don't train with me, but you know of me, use me as Google. Like ask me a question. I'm not going to be like, yeah, it's going to cost you for me to answer you this question. But like, if you can help someone like, hey, I can't train one-to-one right now for whatever reason, fine. But like, I want to know how to eat better, or I want to become a boxer. It's like, well, here's some great things you can do. Like, run with them. Like, use me as a network. Once I'm not spending 5-6 hours a day just answering your questions all day long, because then it's going to be like, hey, you know, there's a line. But like, I'm
literally coaching you here.
Yeah, like, I think being like a network for people is huge in Ireland.
Yeah, like I genuinely think just absolutely. We as coaches, I think our tendency is to be overconfident and say, yeah, I know about that. But like like I said, there's incredible strength and incredible, I suppose, I think there's incredible respect in holding your hands up and saying, look, I actually fucking don't know about that. That's not my wheelhouse. But I know 4 guys, or I know 2 guys and 2 girls that can get you that.
Yeah. Well, when you start teaching her powerlifting and you look ridiculous, your reputation's gone down the drain.
Literally, you just were like, you're just, so I wouldn't sit well with me taking somebody's money in an area that I'm not proficient in and just bluff it the whole way through, because it wouldn't sit right with me. But sorry, the other part of that question was for business and for non-negotiable.
Yeah, so let's say I'm a client and I've just started training with you, and there's like 3 non-negotiable habits, behaviors, like before I binge eat, sit down and think, do you really want to do this? Is it emotional? Is it whatever? What kind of 3 habits that you think people should try adopt every day into their lifestyle? Like, I have a non-negotiable habit just for me as Kez, is make me bed every morning, no matter what I do, because then I have a win under my belt, and it's like a good habit for me to then go on. You know.
I know what you mean. In terms of like, do you know what? I probably should put in some of these sort of non-negotiable habits, but I actually don't. I'm fairly relaxed when it comes to you have to do this, this, and this daily, because from the client base I have, they're not. You know, if I was to say you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to do that, like most of them have kids, most of them have highly stressful jobs. If I say you got to do these 4 or 5 things on top of that, I think I'd lose them. Not lose them as clients, but I think I'd lose them to the process.
Oh, wow.
Like, now I've got to do this, this, and this. Like, so the main thing I just focus on is, do you know what? Non-negotiables for me are probably just keeping track of your food and hitting hitting your targets. Like for me, like the biggest sort of non-negotiable for me is hitting protein targets. Like I'm a big stickler for like protein targets, because I know how important it is. I know how important it is for not just lean muscle gains, but I also know how much it is, how important it is for like hormonal levels, like say for instance like ghrelin levels. So ghrelin is your hunger hormone, so for suppressing ghrelin levels, as you get leaner and as you lose weight, your ghrelin levels will elevate, so your hunger will start to go up and up and up. So one thing that actually helps suppress ghrelin levels is a high protein diet. So so I try and sort of be a bit of a stickler for protein targets, and then calories, just keeping tabs on calories. And then everything else I think just falls in habitually. Like one of the sort of questions I try and ask my clients is, is there anything better that you could, is there anything better or is there anything you could be doing better? And then they'll always come back to me saying, well, you know what, I could probably do this, and I could do this, and I could do this. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay, cool, try that.
Yeah, I like that though. Yeah.
So
if you get one habit, like you said, if you've got them tracking the calories to the point that they're just hitting the protein and being mindful of what they're eating.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, oh, I will do that walk. Oh, I won't skip that workout.
Yeah.
I like.
Okay, so for like the process for me is very simple, and I suppose it's I focus on calories and protein from the outset. And then I'll try and go, okay, like 4 weeks in when they're feeling better and things are starting, and we've gotten a load of wins under your belt, I'd go, okay, do you think you could increase your fiber intake? Okay, cool. How am I going to do that? Okay, could you eat 3 portions of vegetables a day?
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden now you've got them eating a shitload of protein, you've got them eating a load more vegetables, they're getting a load of micronutrients, a heap of fiber, they're eating less calories because they're eating more volume. So, you're already on par. So rather than, I suppose, setting out from the outset with these, like, I suppose, non-negotiable type things, I try my best to sort of not overwhelm people from the get-go. So I'll make, and it might seem like not a lazy coaching type thing, but it's more of a like, I'd rather take a more cautious approach from the outset than say, okay, you need to do these fucking 10 things on top of your fucking work, on top of your daily job, on top of your fucking 3 kids that you have to manage, on top of keeping a house in order, on top of, dropping the kids to school for a father, collecting the kids at the weekend from football practice, from swimming, from football, people have busy ass lives. And like I said at the very outset, my goal isn't to make this more complicated for people, it's to make it more fucking simple. And the less restrictions or the less rules I put in place, I think the better, because then it leaves it open for their interpretation in terms of, right, well, what could I do better? So if I say to a client, well, what do you think you could do better this week? Like one of my clients came back to me and said, well, I could probably cut out, I'm having like, the odd slice of bread in between, meals, and I'm not counting that. I'm like, okay, I'll try clean that up this week. And he was like, yeah, cool. So he's leading himself to his own answers. So rather than me saying, what are you eating? Why are you eating this bread? And, fuck, you shouldn't be having this and you shouldn't be having that. I'm like, well, is there anything that you feel you could do better? And then they're like, well, you know what? I could probably clean up. I come home and habitually I have 2 slices of bread and butter, and then I have, and then I'll probably have a cup of tea and a few biscuits, and then I'll have my dinner. But I don't track those things that I just ate there. And I'm like, okay, well then, do you think you could clean that up? And they're like, yeah, I could probably leave that out. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. And I'm like, yeah, okay, try that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these extra 500 calories that you were eating in between meals are gone, and all of a sudden, weight starts to drop off again. Do you know?
And it's like you said, they realize they already know that, but you weren't like.
You're not telling them to do something. You're not like going, don't do this, don't do that. You're just kind of going, well, look, if you want to get to this goal or you want to reach this thing, is there anything that we could, is there anything in there that we could be cleaning up? And then you're kind of, you know what, I probably could not have that. Probably shouldn't have had that 4th glass of wine there on Friday. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. Maybe try scale that back, Yeah.
The little voice of reason on their shoulder, like.
Literally.
Well, Aaron, thank you. That's all the questions I have for you. But let me tell people where they can find you, because I know I follow you, and I'm always finding valuable things, whether it be for me or for me to kind of tell clients. What's your Instagram? What other things?
My Instagram is Body Smith. I've got a YouTube channel called The Fit Life. I don't upload there as frequently as I would normally to Instagram. So my YouTube's a little bit more sporadic. So yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. And then obviously Facebook, nobody really uses that anymore, do they? But yeah,
it's owned by Instagram or the other way around, so it's all the same. Really.
Facebook. That's pretty much it. And then you can contact me via email, info@aaronsmithpt.com. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Job done.
And if anyone is watching this or listening to this at a later time than right now, you can also just DM him or me if you didn't quite catch any of those email addresses or whatever. I'll link them on my page as well, and on YouTube and on Spotify and all that.
Reason not.
Cool. Cheers, pal. Thanks for coming on.
God, listen. Thanks very much for having me.
Good to chat with you.
Legend.
I'll see you later. Take it easy.
Good luck.